Hey, good morning. I want to talk to you about a very disturbing trend that I'm hearing from people on a regular basis. This is coming from people who work in large organizations who are in somewhat of a leadership position, and they're stymied and challenged about what's happening in their culture. Now, when I say what's happening in their culture, they're seeing colleagues around them, people who they've worked with for 10 or 15 years at a similar senior level in the organization, who are completely being stripped of their responsibilities. Now, when I say stripped of their responsibilities, they're not being terminated, they're not being reprimanded, they're not being fired, they're being what you call layered. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know the term layered, let me give you a little sense of what it is. You have a senior position. Let's say your title is Chief of Operations, and that's your job. But you report to a CEO, or maybe you report to some executive VP in an organization, but you still got a high level title. And all of a sudden, your senior executive sends you a message and says, hey, I need to meet with you today because we're making some changes to the organizational chart. And you're like, what kind of changes to the organizational chart? You're wondering if you're going to get demoted. You're wondering if you're going to lose your position. You're wondering if, you're going to lose some money or you're going to lose your job. You're wondering all of these things. Then you get walked into the office and said, hey, we need some things to tighten up around here, and we need to do some things a little bit differently. So I'm going to put Bob over your team and over you. So you're still going to keep your title. We're not changing your salary, but you're going to report to Bob for the foreseeable future until things start to turn around. So you haven't been taken out of your role. You haven't lost a single dime of pay. Your bonus and comp structure is still the same, but you now got a new boss. You got somebody who you didn't want to report to. So now you're stuck in this scenario. Well, I'm starting to see this trend happen to lots of leaders in lots of organizations. Here's a second trend that's attached to it, that you're seeing people who are being put out to pasture. That's the term that I'm going to use. So that's a term that's used in farming, at least the way I understand it, a term in farming that when a cow is not useful for being milked or for anything else, you put them out to pasture, to feed, to get fat, to take them to the slaughter. And that means that they are going to serve another use, not the original use that they were bought from. And how is this happening in corporate America? I'm seeing executives who got great responsibility, who got great roles, who are providing all kinds of value into their organization, but all of a sudden they're being put out into a position that is celebratory in title and role, but they have no real responsibility. They don't have anything to do. And so what am I seeing and what am I hearing about this? I literally have been traveling and speaking and working with leaders in organizations, and I'm seeing this happen to their colleagues, and they're seeing it, and they're frustrated by it. And they say something like this: you know what, Anton, if I was CEO, I would stop this. If I was CEO, this wouldn't happen on my watch. If I was in charge, things wouldn't go down like this. They say these things to me, that if I was, that's the key beginning of the sentence. If I was in charge, if I was a leader, if I was the executive, if I was the chief rocker, busy bee, and I ran things, this would not be happening to my colleagues. But here's the problem, especially if this is you who's saying, if I was in charge, I'd do things differently. Here's the problem. You're not in charge. And guess what? You're probably never going to be in charge. And not because you're a bad person or you're not worthy of the role and the opportunity, is that you're waiting to get a title before you build your level of influence in the organization. You're literally waiting on a title before you build influence in your organization. And anybody that is waiting to get promoted to the senior level in order to wield their influence or use their influence to make things better in the organization, they probably are not going to get that title. At least that's my experience and what I've seen. Now, what am I saying to you? You probably thinking, Anton, I'm a high performer. I put in work. I've done all of the things I'm supposed to do. I got my credentials. I got everything I'm supposed to have to get that big chair. So when I get it, I'm going to change things around here. Well, I don't believe you're going to get the big chair. You know why? Because you don't understand power. You don't understand power. At least not how power works at the highest levels of organizations. Now, I'm giving you this scenario because I absolutely understand power. I absolutely understand power. I've seen power operate at a very high level, at a global level, not just in corporate America, but also in government. I've seen power at the highest level. So I've worked with executives also at the highest level. So now let me give you just kind of 3 reasons as to why you need to build your influence before you get the title. See, title gives you some authority, that you have the authority to be able to do things. But I think you need to understand that long before you get that title, you need to build your influence. And here's where you're making a mistake. So many leaders think that their performance is what's going to give them the title. They think their performance is going to save them. Like, I mean, you have to be skilled to be at your level. You got to be able to, to use a sports analogy, you got to be able to score touchdowns. You got to perform. You got to be able to make catches. You got to be able to make plays. You got to be able to hit home runs. You got to be able to get hits. Like, I mean, all of those things that we talk about when we use sports metaphors in business, you got to be able to do those things. And these sports metaphors are like examples of how people perform. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Give me the metaphor that you use in your organization. I want to use that one. So put that in the comments if you have a metaphor that you use at your workplace around people who are high performers. See, the reason why I want to stay focused on the high performers is because high performers are the ones who get noticed. You're the ones who get the awards and the plaques at the sales meeting. You're the ones that get the shout out from the CEO. You're the ones that get all of those things because you performed. Your performance was good. Your performance was excellent. Your performance was over the top. You exceeded all expectations when it came to performing in the workplace. Your performance gets you noticed, but your performance is not a guarantee to get you promoted. See, the reason why it's not a guarantee to get you promoted is because there's one thing that is connected to getting promoted in an organization. That one thing is judgment. Like judgment about things that are bigger than you and your performance. Judgment is about what's happening to the organization, not just your department. Yeah, PhD doers, I like that. PhD doers is the term that y'all use. In another organization, they use GSDs, not PhDs, GSDs. You know what a GSD is? Get stuff done. So when I'm talking about judgment, here's what I want you to understand. I want you to understand that judgment is what the board wants to see from an executive that they're considering to be promoted. They want to see your judgment. They want to see how you think about the problems facing the organization, and can they trust you to solve those problems. Your performance gets you noticed, but your judgment will get you trusted to be a C-level leader. Now, the reason why you got to figure out this performance versus judgment piece is because the problems that your colleagues are having in the organization right now, they can't wait on you any longer. You got to put yourself in a position to be able to address what's going on in your organization. And you're not doing that now because you're just a performer. You're the go-to person. You get stuff done. You're the person that everybody goes to when work needs to be executed. But you're not the person that they come to and ask, what do you think about this challenge? What do you think about this strategic direction? What do you think about what we should do about this complex problem that has nothing to do with your area. So I'm telling you right now, that you got to learn how to become trusted in the organization. And being trusted in the organization requires you to show people that you have really good judgment about the complex problems that face the enterprise. So here's what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you, you got to learn how to ask strategic questions, like really strategic questions about the entire organization. And then if somebody asks you a strategic question, you need to have a strategic recommendation. And so many performers know their work area intimately in great detail. You have no problem talking about strategic questions or making strategic recommendations about stuff that you got to do, because as a high performer, you've seen all of the problems. You want people to be responsive to you and what your problems are in your area. But I'm talking about across the organization. How are you positioning yourself, positioning your leadership, positioning your role so that you become trusted because you've demonstrated judgment on things that have nothing to do with your work? That's the first mistake. It's just focusing on performance and not focusing on judgment. Here's the second thing. A lot of leaders have become what I call indispensable, that you have performed at such a high level for such a long time that you are indispensable. You have become like a piece of furniture. You know what I mean? Like a piece of furniture. Just think about that good couch that you have, the one that is so comfortable, that was made so solid that it was like the best investment that you made was a good couch. And so when you come home, you love to sit on that couch. You sit on that couch so much that you have an expectation that it's always going to be there. You get so familiar with it that you know where it is at all times. You know what a good spots are. You know what a comfortable spot is to lay your head. You know what a comfortable spot is to sit. You get so comfortable with that couch that the couch starts to become invisible. And what do I mean invisible? When you walk into the room, you never bump into the couch because you know exactly where it is. You know exactly where you put it. You know that it's reliable in every way. And so what I'm telling you is, you have become like a couch in your organization. You're so indispensable that you have become invisible, that everybody takes it for granted that you're going to be there. You know what else is a problem about couches? Couches don't talk back. Couches don't have anything to say. Couches don't offer an opinion. Couches don't offer idea. Couches don't share how they think. Couches are furniture. So my question for you, are you furniture in your organization? Do you talk about how you think in the workplace? Or do you just show people how you work? See, having incredible work ethic is a guaranteed need at a leadership level in an organization. You got to have work ethic. Nobody has time for people who are not willing to work. But if you want to be promoted and have tremendous influence in your organization, people need to see how you think. Like one of the things about me, I'm unafraid at any point in time to tell you what I think. You might love it. You might not love it. You might think it's okay. You might think it's not okay. You might agree with it. You might not agree with it. But there's one thing you are never going to say. Anton did not share his perspective on how he thought about this issue. That's the reason why I've been doing this program for almost 4 years now. Every Wednesday, I've been doing this for more than 4 years because I'm unafraid to share with you what I think. Now, my perspective is an informed perspective, just like yours should be in your workplace. that you've been around long enough that you're not just putting in the work, you actually have a perspective. And I want you to know that if you want to be promoted and build your influence in the organization, people need to know your perspective. They need to know how you think, not just see your work ethic. So what do I mean, share with people how you think? Is that you need to offer an opinion. Here is my opinion on this circumstance. Here's how I think. Here's how I think about it. Here's what I think this is going to mean. You know, I was thinking about this the other day and I came to this conclusion and share the conclusion. See, leaders are thinkers and they have to let people know what they think. They can't just think it up and then not say anything. That's wasted brain effort. That if you come up with good ideas, good strategy, good insights, good opinions, good perspective, and you don't share it, then you're wasting it. I think I heard Les Brown say one of the places of the most unfulfilled ideas is a cemetery. These are the things that we thought about, we never put into action, we never executed on, and then we died and they're buried with us. So I'm telling you, the second mistake you can make as a leader is to just be indispensable because of your work ethic. And that allows you to become invisible. But how you regain your visibility is to letting people know how you think, what you think, why it's important to you. You got to share your perspective. That's the second thing you got to do, is to share your perspective. Don't turn indispensability into invisibility. Don't do that. Share with people how you think. Here's the last one, and I'm almost done here. I want y'all to understand something, that your desire to keep your head down and just do the work is not going to be helpful to you or the people that you serve in your organization. See, self-preservation is a dangerous thing in the workplace. Now, when I mean self-preservation, you know how many executives I talk to? When I'm saying executives, I'm not talking always C-suite people. I'm talking about people, senior directors, VPs, people who are at the senior level. Some people at that level still say, I'm just happy to have a job right now. I'm just going to keep my head down and do my work. I'm not getting into that mess. My name is Paul, and that's between y'all. Or my name is Bennett, and that ain't in it. And I'm not in it. Like, these are people who literally say, I'm just going to focus on my stuff. I'm going to keep my head down because last time such and such spoke up, they weren't here anymore. Let me just tell you right now, that self-preservation mentality is a hurting mentality. It's hurting you. It's hurting the people in your organization who need you to show up. Like, when I say need you to show up, before I tell you about how to combat this self-preservation thing, when I say people need you to show up, your workforce is hurting. They're in fear of losing their jobs. They're at the lower levels of the organization, and they have much less security than you do, much less influence than you do, much less power than you do, much less proximity to the C-suite than you do. They are expendable. They're not indispensable like you. They're expendable. And they're worried right now. They're worried that they are going to be on the chopping block in the workplace. These cultural challenges, these innovation challenges with AI taking over the workplace, with public policy challenges. Like, I literally just had this conversation yesterday with a client about all of the things that are facing them in their industry. AI disruption, public policy disruption, turnover disruption, retention disruption, burnout, fatigue. Like, all of these things are happening to the people in your organization. And they need your help. And because they need your help, you cannot bury your head in the sand and not speak up about what they're experiencing and what they're going through. You can't. You're trying to preserve yourself protect yourself while the people around you might be sacrificed. The people who report to you might be sacrificed. So I'm telling you, you have to stop hiding in plain sight. You don't build influence by hiding in plain sight. You build influence by showing up and verbalizing what your team is experiencing. You build influence by being an advocate for the mission and for the people who carry out the mission, regardless of what's going on. So what am I telling you to do? I'm telling you to make sure that you fight for your team. To stop being focused on your self-preservation and stay focused on your team. Stay focused on speaking up about the things that no one else is talking about in the workplace. Be the person who has a command of the facts about what's happening in the breadth and the depth of the workforce. Why? Because that's how you build influence, because you understand what's going on. And if you want to have that ultimate authority, if you want power of being the chief rocker, the head person in charge, the CEO one day, over time, you got to stop focusing just on performance and being noticed. You got to stop focus on being invisible because you're so indispensable. And you got to stop focus on trying to preserve yourself. Instead, you need to demonstrate that you have judgment and understand the strategy. Number two, you need to show people how you think and why you think what you think. And number three, you need to be an advocate for the people that you lead. Those are the three things that the best leaders do. They do it in their organizations all the time, and that's how they have the strongest culture. Because your team wants to know, is my leader going to fight for me? Is my leader going to help me to be successful? And does my leader care enough about me to know what I need? And are they going to raise those strategic questions to the leaders in the C-suite? And here's the big point. Are the leaders in the C-suite going to listen? Many times they don't. And when they don't, they're going to get put out. They're going to retire. They're going to move on. But the question is, when that happens, are you going to get promoted? And you won't get promoted if you're just waiting and thinking that your performance is going to get you the title. Your performance will not. Your judgment will, your strategic thinking will, and your advocacy for your team will. That's my experience, and that's what I wanted to share today. So I want to thank you for watching. Everybody have a fantastic day.